You're listening to Living with Louie. Well, hello, folks, and welcome back to this edition of Living with Louie. And in today's edition, we'd like to discuss something that happens to a lot of us that live with Lewy body dementia. And the subject today, I think, is going to be on hallucinations. Hallucinations, they that seems to be something that's common across the board with this. Most of the people that I've talked to that have Lewy body dementia, they do have hallucinations from time to time. Myself, I've had several of them. And what amazes me is just how real the hallucination can appear to be. And it amazes me that the brain is capable of fabricating this hallucination that seems to be so incredibly real. My situation, I try to discern whether or not what I'm seeing is real or not. But the one thing that I found is that you have visual hallucinations, and then I also have these auditory or things that I hear, which are also classed as hallucinations, and that seems to happen from time to time. The one thing that I've always tried to do is try, and I'm thankful that I still have the ability to do this. I try my best to apply logic to the situation. One of the more vivid hallucinations that I've had was a woman in a white dress was walking across my neighbor's yard, and what I saw, she disappeared behind my wife's greenhouse, and she didn't come out the other side. So back into my field of vision. When looking at it, originally I'm like, what in the... And then I went, wait a minute, that's my mind, because she would have had to have kept going, or she would have reappeared in the field of vision, and she didn't. That was so realistic, and I've been shopping in one of the local stores here. I was in the area where they have blue jeans, and all of a sudden I look down and here's a dog, and I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, there's a dog, and he wasn't threatening in any way. A smaller brownish colored dog that was just looking at me and wagging his tail, and just so real, like you could almost reach down and pet him. But I had to say to myself, dogs don't go shopping for jeans. So this is your brain again playing some tricks on you. And so I think that I'm fortunate that at this point in my journey, that I can still have the the capacity to be able to apply some logic to the situation at hand and realize that, hey, wait a minute, this is your brain. It's not real. It's not there. I've also had um, I've had the feeling that I had like bugs on me, and that I find irritating because I will be swatting at them sometimes and rubbing my arm like to get rid of them. However, they're not there, and Oftentimes, I'll ask my wife, "Have I got bugs on?" No, you don't have bugs on you, honey. And so she's been able to reassure me at times, but it's uh, it's amazing to me that the brain can play such tricks on you. And so, at any rate, I was in a support group meeting, and this was the subject of conversation. And it was amazing to me how many other people had these different types of hallucinations that were taking place in their lives and their journey, and also to listen to how a lot of them uh, go about it. But I think one thing that I think kind of rings common was that the things that that I listened to them say they saw, and I know the things that I've seen. They've never posed any threat to me, or I've never felt scared or felt like there was any threat to me. Now, since seeing the dog shopping for jeans, I've also seen him out in my yard when I've been working in the garden, and I own three dogs, and certainly wasn't any of those three because mine are much larger. But it's just amazing. The auditory hallucination that I have frequently is normally will happen when I get up at night to go to the bathroom, and I come back and I lay down, and I'll hear people talking like out in my living room, and for lack of a better description, sounds a little bit like Walter Cronkite, um, with that news broadcast type voice. But I know that that can't be right because my dogs sleep around my bed, or one of them is almost always in the bed, and they will react to anything. So when they're laying there calmly, I pretty well know that there's nobody in my living room having a conversation. So the other thing that came up in this uh, support group was some people having delusions. So far, I've been fortunate enough not to have experienced the delusion aspect of this, but to shed a little light on kind of the differences, I'm going to go to a reference from the Lewy Body Dementia Association where they talk about hallucinations being the perception of an object or an event when the object or the event is not really present. And it says typically in Lewy body, but rarely, hallucinations can be auditory, which I happen to know those can happen. And that is hearing things that aren't really there. And olfactory or smell. They also list taste or touch or tactile. And maybe the bugs are that type of thing because they give you some examples like seeing children or small animals, seeing bugs crawling on the floor or walls, or smelling bad odors that others cannot. Um, Hearing people talking when no one is there. This is how the Lewy Body Dementia Association classes hallucinations. And then they go on to say about delusions, and those are what they call strongly held false beliefs or an opinion that isn't based on any evidence or data. It also includes paranoia or an extreme irrational distrust of others. And they give some examples there of believing your spouse is having an affair, believing relatives long dead or still living, believing that a close relative or friend has been replaced by an exact double, believing food or medicine is poisoned, believing that there are strangers that are in their home. Well, I'm glad that I don't have the delusion part of it, and but at any rate, I thought that it was kind of important to point out kind of the differences between hallucinations and delusion. Evidently, according to the Lewy Body Dementia Association, visual hallucinations, seeing things that aren't present, actually occur in up to 80% of people with Lewy body dementia. And often it happens early on. It says they are typically realistic and detailed, such as images of children or animals. Non visual hallucinations, such as hearing or smelling things, are not there, are not present, are less common than the visual ones, but they can also occur. Well, I can tell you they can, because I happen to be the recipient of the auditory hallucinations. Um, Most hallucinations, they say, are not disruptive and may not require any type of treatment. Um, and I certainly am no one to recommend any treatment or in any way, shape, or form. However, it says here that if they are frightening or dangerous, for example, if a person attempts to fight a perceived intruder, then maybe that's the time that you talk to your medical uh, team as to exactly what's going on. But I know that in my case, um, when I have these hallucinations, if my wife is there, she'll say, "Well, what are you seeing?" And I tell her, and she said, "Well, I don't see that." So, okay. But in my mind, it's pretty real. And she doesn't enter into trying to question what's going on with my hallucination. She'll just tell me that she doesn't see it. And that's when I start trying to apply the logic, as I talked about earlier, to the situation to find out, is this my brain playing another trick on me, or what? And I try to figure it out. I was sitting in the backyard one day and I saw a bird. Well, that bird would fly from a bush over on my left over to a tree on my right. He must have flown that way 5 or 6 times. Well, the problem is he never flew back. Well, if he's not flying back, then he can't start over here and go over there. So I was able to say, eh, that's that's not real. That's the brain again. But I've never had anything happen that frightened me. My own personal care physician has told me. He said, you're going to have some hallucinations from time to time, and he said when they happen, he said rarely has he ever heard of them taking on um, a position that the person feels threatened or in any way or frightening. He said, so my advice to you would be just embrace them and try to realize what's happening and put it into the proper perspective. And that seems to be the way that I have decided that is best for me. That doesn't mean that that's going to be the best for you. But I do know that one of the pieces that I was reading about the hallucinations was that it's not wise to belittle someone for the hallucination they're having, or tell them, hey, you're crazy. That's not there. The best thing for is to comfort them and just let them know that it's okay. and I would certainly be a proponent of that. I don't think that you have anything to win with, especially if I'm having a hallucination. I don't think that I necessarily want someone to go, "Hey, you're crazy. That's not there." You know, my wife will say, "What are you seeing?" Because she knows that something's happening, and she'll just say, I'm sorry, honey, I don't see that," and then that's a little softer and a little easier pill to swallow, if you will. And as we go down this journey of this Lewy body dementia, I think that compassion and is one of the better tools that someone can use to deal with you. Is just take it from a compassionate standpoint. And my wife is very capable of that. Does she get frustrated with me sometimes? You betcha. And I would have to say probably justifiably so. But she knows that a lot of the things that happen are a manifest of the Lewy body itself, and so she tries not to take these things too personally. And thank goodness, because I honestly don't know where I would be without her love and her support. It's the most important thing that I have. And I know that most people that live with this Lewy body, you live with a long list of things that um, have been taken from you. But there's also life after this Lewy diagnosis, and that's one thing that I heard echoed by people in the support group, is that there is life after the Lewy body diagnosis. And so it's a matter of I talked about this, I believe, in the last couple of episodes about your mental attitude towards things. There are things that you can fight, and I've found that out through my therapy team. The other thing that the therapy team has talked about is neuroplasticity and the mind's ability or the brain's ability to use another area of the brain that's not damaged to be retrained to send signals to the areas of the brain that used to be handled by something else. For instance, for me, one of the best examples that I have of the neuroplasticity is that I was walking out on my toes. I was in a position that could cause falls and whatnot, and they spent a great deal of time with me saying, "Put your heel down first, put your heel down first," to the point that when I'm walking and I feel myself losing a little bit of my balance, the first thing that I think about is heel first, heel first. Now they're trying to correct what's wrong with my arm swing, because usually when your left leg goes forward, your right arm goes forward, and vice versa. Not me. When I walk, my right foot goes forward, my right arm goes forward. So they're trying to get my brain to rethink how that arm swing takes place. So this term neuroplasticity is real, and they certainly have made believers out of me, for certain. Uh, but I think that I might have gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, talking about the neuroplasticity. But I think how this ties together with the hallucinations is just how fascinating the human brain can be and what it's capable of, and that that is to me a big reason why I'm involved in this therapy, and I have a total buy-in to what they're trying to do, because they've been with me now for months, and they have made drastic differences in every aspect of my life. Now, granted, they can handle the physical parts of this, but there's not much we're going to do to deal with what happens inside your in your brain, the damage that continues to take place in your brain. But I've learned that I can fight on this front, and so therefore that's what my intentions are. So I hope that you found today's episode interesting, and hopefully it's something that you can relate to. And if you want to share any stories or information about hallucinations and how they affect your life, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. I can be found under Living with Lewy Podcast on Facebook, and you can private message me, and I'd be more than happy to have that conversation. Please remember, folks, that we are 100% voluntarily funded by our listeners. So please go to the link at the bottom of your favorite podcast provider, and you'll find a link there that says support the show, or you can find us on GoFundMe under Living with Lewy Podcast, and every dollar counts, and every dollar helps. So please take a minute and go in and support the show. We certainly would appreciate it. The only thing we try to do is cover our operating costs and equipment maintenance costs. So we thank you and have a great day. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this edition of Living with Lewy.